Hello, welcome back to Calm AF. If you're listening to this episode as soon as it's published, Happy New Year's Eve. This episode is coming out on December 31st, 2025. If you're coming from the future, welcome, time traveler. How are things going? Did everything get better? Oh my gosh. So we're wrapping up this year, and let me tell you, it was a year. It really was a year. I genuinely hope that as you look back on 2025, you are feeling love and pride and joy. I genuinely hope that this was one of your favorite years ever. And if that's not your experience, you are not alone. You are in very good company. 2025 was a tough year for a lot of people. Now, if you happen to be into things like numerology, 2025 was what they call a 9-year. 9 years are endings, completions of a 9-year cycle. And while that sounds good in theory, like if you're thinking about, completion of a project, in real life, it rarely feels like a neat, tidy, wrapped up with a bow kind of an ending. Because as you are leaving a 9-year, you are moving into a 1-year, a whole new season, a whole new era. So it often feels like a shedding, like taking everything that you have become over the last 9 years and letting all of the final layers fall away to prepare you for who you are about to be. The shedding is necessary. It can be painful. It's almost always uncomfortable. But here's how I like to think about it, especially in terms of starting a new year. Life moves in seasons, and when one season ends, the invitation isn't to just rush into the next one. It really is time to pause and get really clear on who you are becoming in this next version, in this next identity, in this next era. Get really clear on that before you start building anything new. It's about deciding the identity that you are stepping into as you enter a new era. That's what we're going to be talking about over the next few episodes. Identity creation, character development. We're not going to be talking about goal chasing or strategy, identity. This might sound backwards. It might feel like you need to figure out all the steps first because that's what you've been used to doing all of these years of goal setting. I have been doing this goal setting process the way I do it since around 2010, and I've been teaching it since about 2014. But let me tell you, since about 85 maybe, when I was around like 9-10 years old, when I started really getting the bug for that feeling you get it with a fresh start, a new year, a new notebook, a blank slate. I have loved writing down my goals since like 1985, 86. And from 1985 or 86 till around 2010, I achieved exactly 0 of them. I wrote them all down and I achieved 0. So finally, I learned. And I was like, this thing isn't really working for me. The way that I've learned how to do these goals, it's not really working for me. So I turned the whole thing upside down. And I approach my goals from the inside. I call it the future self process. It's a 5-step approach to goal creation and goal achieving. But the most important part is the part that people usually skip. That's why I want to start here today as we are just eking into a new year. because you might be tempted to try to change your whole life, starting with strategy, coming up with a plan, deciding every step and when you're going to do it and how you're going to do it. But real change doesn't actually start there. It starts with giving yourself permission to want what you want, permission to imagine a bigger life, to set wild goals that seem out of reach without immediately shrinking them down so that they're a little more realistic. This step, the first step of my 5-step process, is called Dream Big. And it's not about being realistic. It's not about being responsible and strategic. It's definitely not the moment to try and figure out how any of it will ever work or if it's even possible. It doesn't matter. This step is about letting yourself go there, all the way there, just fully, honestly, all out. What is it that I really want? If anything was possible, if everyone would agree, if everyone thought it was a good idea, without editing. So today, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and play you the Dream Big lesson straight out of my Future Self course. This is, like I said, the most important step, and it's the step that everybody skips. Now, if you want all of the rest of the steps, you want the entire course, the private podcast, the workbook, you can get it right now for, guess how much? $26. I've been thinking about it. This is my little offering to the gods, to the universe, that 2026 could potentially just be a little lighter, a little gentler, a little easier on all of us than the last few years. That's why it's $26. The link is in the show notes. But today, what I want you to do is listen. Let yourself imagine, let yourself go there, let yourself want what you want. So here from my Future Self course is step 1, Dream Big. Okay, step one. I want you to think of this as more of a pre-step. This is like the mindset that I want you to get into before you start going through the Future Self process. Okay, we're starting with Dream Big because we don't live in a world that encourages us to dream big. We live in a world that encourages us to play it safe, to be small, to be realistic, right? What are we always told? Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. How many times has there been something that you really wanted, that you wanted to be excited for, but you told yourself, like, don't get too excited. Do not get too excited. We do this to ourselves all the time. And I think, F that. I think, no. I think let's not keep telling ourselves that. Instead of telling ourselves to play small, don't be too excited, I think we should get really excited. I think we should dream really big. Here's why. I want you to get your hopes up. First of all, it's just fun. It just feels fun to dream big and get into the feeling state of like, what if that happened? What if I got what I wanted? I remember years ago, we were still living in Illinois, and it was like the Powerball was like $1 gazillion. And I don't play lotto. I don't know how to work. I don't know what to do. So I just don't play it. But this time I did. I was like, it's $1 gazillion. Like, obviously I should buy a ticket, right? So I was at this gas station and I went in and I bought a ticket and I won. I'm just kidding. I did not win $1 trillion or $1 gazillion. But I bought the ticket. And I remember after that, I put the ticket in my purse. I was driving to Trader Joe's. And the whole way I was driving to Trader Joe's, I was like, what if I won? Like, what if this was the winning ticket and I won $1 gazillion? What would I do? How would my life, how much fun would it be? Like, what would I buy? Who would I give my money to? Like, I just had a blast the whole drive to Trader Joe's thinking about how fun it would be, right? And
What's the harm in that? I want you to think about that for a minute. What is the harm in getting excited? It felt fun to me. It was really, really fun. What we normally do, I could have instead, I could have gotten in the car and being like, this is stupid. Why did you even buy this? Why did you spend this money on this Powerball ticket? You're not going to win. And even if you did win, it would probably destroy your life. I could have done that, but instead I just had a blast on the way to Trader Joe's. What is the harm in that? Why don't we let ourselves do that? I will tell you exactly why. We don't let ourselves do that because instead of teaching you how to handle feelings like disappointment when you were young, or how to handle how it feels to fail at something, you were taught how to just not do the things that could create those negative feelings, right? Don't get your hopes up. Dream small. Don't get your hopes up is what you say to yourself or you say to someone else because you don't want them to feel bad. Don't get too excited is what you say to yourself or someone else because you don't want them to have to experience a disappointment on the other side. Guess what, my friend? Not getting your hopes up is literally just feeling disappointed ahead of time. Crushing your excitement so that you don't have to potentially feel sad later is just making you feel sad now. You're not actually protecting yourself from anything. In this attempt to avoid the negative emotion of not getting what you want, you are practicing the negative emotion of not getting what you want without ever having tried. You're just doing it ahead of time. Getting your hopes up feels really, really fun. Dreaming big, letting your imagination run wild, just for fun, is just that, fun. So that's the first reason to dream big. The second reason, because when you shoot for the stars, even if you don't get all the way there, you're going to get closer than if you aim low. If you aim low, you have a better chance of hitting your goals, sure. But if you aim really freaking high, you can pretty much guarantee you're going to go past that low bar and get further, get closer to what you really, really want. When I was a speech pathologist, I used to set really unrealistic goals for my clients. So if I had a client that had no consistent means of communicating, I would set a goal that they would be independently communicating with minimal help 100% of the time. Now, that wasn't the goal I could write in the IEP for legal reasons, because you had to show that a client was achieving the goals you set for them in this specific amount of time. So in these documents, I would need to start right where they are and then make small steps forward from there. And that's literally what I did during our sessions. I would meet the client where they are, and I would, every time we met, we would try and move up a notch or two, closer to the goal. That's also how I teach my coaching clients now. In order to make changes that actually stick forever, you just focus on one notch better. You want to get from a 3 to a 4, or even from a 3 to a 3.1. We aren't trying to leap from a 3 to a 10, because when you do that, you're actually going to have to go back and learn the lessons and embody the lessons that you missed from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. However, I think it's important to know what that 10 is. Okay, we need to know, what would a 10 feel like? If I dreamed really big, if I let myself go all the way to the place that seems unrealistic and unlikely, what is it that I actually want? Okay, so aiming high gets you closer to what you actually want. The third reason, because if you don't decide where you really want to go, you will not get there. So let's use a road trip example. Let's say you want to go on a road trip. Let's say you live in LA and you want to drive to New York, which sounds terrible, but we'll just do it for the sake of this example. Okay, so you're like, well, LA to New York, I want to get my hopes up that I can actually make it all the way to New York. There's so many things that could go wrong. I could run out of gas. The car could break down. I could get lost. Let me be a little more realistic. I mean, New York is my dream. That's where I really, really want to go. But let's see, if I'm being more reasonable, Chicago. New York would be great, but Chicago would be fine too. Okay, so that becomes your destination. You set your you really want New York, But in being realistic, you set your goal for Chicago. Guess where you will end up? Chicago. And listen, there's nothing wrong with Chicago, but what you really wanted was New York. The only thing stopping you from letting yourself want what you want is your fear of not getting it and all the feelings that are associated with it. You need to let yourself dream. Dream for and shoot for the 10 so that you know what your ultimate destination really is. Okay? So if you decide what I really, really want is New York, so that's really that's my big goal. That is how I'm going to dream big, is New York. Even if you don't get to New York, you're going to get closer than Chicago, right? Dream big. Let yourself go to the place and let yourself want what you really, really want so that you know what you're actually going for.
All right, there it was, step 1. If you felt something open a little bit, maybe a little excitement, maybe even a little skepticism, it's not a problem. Dream big is step 1 because identity cannot form if you don't let yourself see where you actually want to go. You don't need the whole map yet. You don't need to know how it's going to happen. You just need to know the feeling and then go in that direction. If you want to continue this work, you can get the full Future Self course, $26 to celebrate 2026. You'll have access to every lesson and you can listen to the entire experience as a private podcast if logging into the computer is not your jam. It's all here in the show notes. Thank you for being here. Whether you have been with me since the beginning, you're an OG Call My Effer, or maybe you're brand new, thank you for being here. It's not an accident. Thank you for giving yourself permission to think big, and stay tuned because we are going to get deeper and deeper into identity creation and character development. Happy New Year. Have a great rest of your day, your week, and hopefully year. I'll see you in the next one.